we go. This week in HOLLYWOKE, we are doing our Superman review today from the point of view of the political escalation that has happened. And a lot of people are accusing the filmmaker, James Gunn, of Superman, of putting out a woke film. And you guys know, we've been watching our show, that we are the first really to call out when something is woke. And there's a lot of ways to be woke. There's things we've told you. You guys know how this works. So let's take an honest look at this film. And we'll start with how the box office did over the opening weekend. Superman rescues DC at the box office with a $122 million debut. James Gunn's Superman soared to the top of the box office this weekend, giving Warner Brothers DC much needed momentum in the superhero genre after a string of underperforming movies. The movie was a big swing for Warner Brothers, costing an estimated $225 to produce. So they haven't hit the breaking even number yet, which I've seen other news outlets saying, it's a failure. Well, I mean, if this was the end of the box office, I guess that would be a failure, but it's going to obviously continue from here. But this was just the opening weekend. And it does not, the 225 does not include a global marketing campaign. So they're not to breaking even yet, but it was still a success compared to the more recent DC films, mostly in the Snyder universe, which you guys know. So the approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 82%. That's considered an A-. Cinema score, 93%. Now, before the release of the film, there were some right-wing commentators who criticized James Gunn, the director, about it being a story about an immigrant coming to America, which he said in an interview. Now, the analysts had raised questions about whether Superman's reputation for earnestly promoting truth and justice in the American way would still appeal to the global audience, particularly as countries have bristled at the U.S. tariff and trade policies enacted by President Trump. Superman has always been identified as a quintessentially American character story. In some parts of the world, however, America is currently not enjoying the greatest popularity, which can be a problem if you're trying to do a story about the greatest American superhero ever in a time like now. So let's see what came from there. Well, what came from there was a lot of negative reviews from people who didn't like the fact that there was any political activity at all going on in this film, which takes place in right now, 2024, 2025 is the time set of this film, which seems to be pretty aware of political tensions, not to mention our social media and AI situation that we're all living with every day. So this is the world that Superman is being told in versus the one we know and love. You guys know the Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, Richard Donner classic from 1978, which this is not in any way trying to be in any way, shape, or form. It is trying to exist in today, right now. So let's see a pretty horrible take from Mike Francesca, who works out of Roger Ebert. Here's him telling us how bad he thinks the film is.
Getting into is this stunk as for someone who's a old-time TV show Superman guy trying to get entertained for a couple hours and wants to see Superman. This movie was pure torture to sit through. Torture. I mean, I'll tell you this. If my name was on the credits, I'd hide it. That's how bad it was. This was 2 hours of this new Superman. It was he wasn't Christopher Reeve, but he was okay Superman. 2 hours of him getting the crap beat out of him. Who wants to see Superman get beat up for 2 hours? He's getting beat up by everybody. Plus, you have other superheroes in the movie. I didn't go there to see some guy named Mr. Terrific. I didn't go there to see the Green Lantern or some lady named Hawk something or other. I don't even know who she was. Then there's a super dog. Who came up with a super dog? I mean, we all like dogs, okay? And I didn't like the dog getting beat on in the movie. It bothered me. But hey, who came up with a dog with a cape? When did that arrive? I watched Superman for years on television. I never saw a dog with a cape.
Okay, Mike Francisca, you gave yourself away because you're not a Superman avid fan, because you would know that Crypto the dog has been around for decades. So you're just saying that because you don't know.
Not on TV. That's in the comic book.
Oh, he only watches TV. Okay, I got it. But the point is, if you only watch TV and you know we live in an era of comic book movies, you know there's always references to the comics. So don't get up there and pretend that they just pulled this out of their ass. Everything's got a reference point. So I'll start with that. But as an avid Superman fan myself and understanding good storytelling as a director and storyteller from Hollywood right here, and we call out woke BS all the time on the Superman topic. These are the ones I'm looking at, Craig, and no one's going to say that any of these future versions of Superman even level to the level of Christopher Reeve. That's the one on the left. That's our champion. The reason why that film and it stands the test of time is because that is the Superman we want to be. We want that world that he exists in 1978. We want those nuances Christopher Reeve brought to that character. We want that world in which Superman can exist and be someone we look up to. And my whole life, Craig, I've always said, when I get into jams, I always say to myself, what would Superman do? And I would be referring in my head to the Christopher Reeve version. Not to mention, I do have collected all the comic books too. I have a whole bunch from the 90s, 80s, and 90s. I got a whole bunch of them. So I appreciate the storytelling on the page as well. I'll just say this before we get to the breaking down this film and the reason why people really are mad at it. It's because the Henry Cavill character, which everybody said was too dark. I agree with that. That character is too dark because that character, Zack Snyder, who did the Snyderverse, doesn't understand the character and thought it was a Batman. And so if you want to make a movie about Batman, make Batman. Don't tell us that Superman is Batman. The problem with the Batman-Superman debate, and I had this growing up, people that don't like Superman, that like Batman instead, their theory is that Superman is too powerful. He knows everything. There's nothing interesting about it. There's a darkness to Batman which attracts people. But then go watch Batman. But if you want to do a Superman story, we want inspiration. We want hope. We want that. That's what we get from this film. So I want you to chime in on this, but I want to just say this is what Dean Cain, a hero you guys saw, was not in that previous picture because he's not considered one of the great Supermen. But Dean Cain did play Superman. Well, he's pretty pissed about this film. This is him going on Piers Morgan to discuss why he's so irritated about this film. And this is before he even saw the film.
For this film, I was excited to see it. It looked like a lot of fun. James Gunn had a lot of humor in that original Guardians of the Galaxy. I was excited for it. I still am excited for it. But, the idea they start talking politics and Superman is an immigrant. Superman's actually a refugee and was adopted and assimilated into American culture tremendously well. And so that's a little bit different than
Isn't that an immigrant?
No.
No?
It's a refugee.
Well, refugees are immigrants, so are they really?
Well, yeah, but you got to understand, Pierce, the United States is the most immigrant-friendly country on the planet by far. We take more than the next 4 countries legal immigrants every year, more than the next 4 countries combined
times more than damage.
Right.
Year.
So why would you mind if the narrative is that Superman's an immigrant? Why wouldn't that be a thing
I don't
to
mind
celebrate?
that narrative, but the truth is he is a refugee. He is a child and a refugee. It's because they're trying to equate those things together, which I think is ridiculous because of the current politicization of that situation. So that's the part that makes me go, look, don't try and make it all woke and crazy. Keep that character as, the way I like him is truth, justice, and the American way. And
it's not truth, justice, and the American way anymore. And this is Dean Cain's take. He says he's former Superman. Dean Cain says the Hollywood has made the character too woke. And he says he thinks it was a mistake for Gunn to say it was an immigrant thing. It's going to hurt the numbers for the movie. And as a supporter of President Trump, he had issues with the changes of the lore of Superman. For Superman, it was truth, justice, and the American way, as he said in the Pierce interview. They dropped that, and I'm glad they did. It said they're now going with truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. I think that's more appropriate to today. He doesn't like that. He just doesn't think it's a great idea. Making a comment on immigration is not appropriate right now. to Dean Cain, and he never thought that Superman should be something like that because he's not really an immigrant. That's funny because he played the character, and that immigration was an issue for Superman. It's always been an issue coming to a planet not from here, and how people respond to that. It's always been an issue with the character, including this scene that Dean Cain played, which literally talks about immigration. This is from the 90s.
Emily Stevens with Immigration and Naturalization. We just need a quick look at your green card.
Green card.
You are an alien, are you not?
Superman, I'm afraid until we get this cleared up, I'm gonna have to ground you.
That looks like an ice raid to me on Superman that Dean Cain was part of. So what the maneuvering and the saying, calling this a woke film, why is this happening right now? Why is there seems to be such a trigger with some people on the right now with a film like this coming out?
Well, it's the parallels, right? You know, don't call him an immigrant. You don't want to have young people having compassion for the immigrants like the Palestinians that are getting wiped out and getting thrown all over the place, or the immigrants that are coming up from the border and they're getting sent back home without any due process from the constitutionalists. We can't get them any type of, independent thinking over here. And you did mention to me the other day that he was able and he was capable of sneaking some stuff in that you were a little bit and I'll let you get to that because I think that's awesome. That's the meat and potatoes of this whole situation is that people have to understand there's so much control. The apparatus of control is in so many different parts of our programming. A big part of it is our movies. Most movies, action movies, don't get made if they have some type of parallel to a geopolitical thing, unless the CIA looks at it and then approves it. And they use movies to sway a population. Remember, it's just like the media game where those in control have control of what not only can be seen, but also who can see it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's big, by the way.
And you mentioned it, and we're going to get to the meat and potatoes right now. One of the reasons why the right is so triggered, not just because we're in a time right now where we're literally dealing with ICE raids that are happening right here in California. Like this is Hollywood. This is where you're having your premieres, you're having your red carpet events. Meanwhile, there's ICE raids going on randomly that it hasn't let up. People are petrified. We know this here in LA. The people are staying home. They're not going to work. This is affecting every industry right now. It's pretty remarkable. This is happening. This is technology that's at play. This is Palantir that's at play. Everybody knows this, that has been paying attention. So a movie like this coming out is commenting on all of those things. Absolutely. But there's one thing it's going even further with that I don't even think Dean Cain and all the rest of these people like Mike Francesca, they're not even going to talk about this part. And that's a real giveaway, Craig, because once you see the movie and once everybody else go see this film, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. In fact, I'm going to let this guy, Goofy Wise, he explains it very well in under a minute. Check it out, and you're going to know what we're really talking about here. It's not, spoiler alert, it's not really about immigration. Here we go.
Is the new Superman movie really anti-Israel? Yes, I just watched that shit. And it's probably as pro-anti-Israel as a movie produced by Hollywood can be. Let me explain. The movie centers around a conflict between two countries, Bravia and Jaranpur, which Superman just intervened to stop Bravia from invading Jaranpur. Bravia is this hyper-militaristic country that takes money from America, or in this case, LexCorp. Their leader of Bravia is just a puppet of Lex Luthor. Tell me this is not just a stand-in for Benjamin Netanyahu. In the movie, Bravia is trying to invade Jaranpur, specifically show a hyper-militarized unit going up against villagers, don't have any real weapons. And just as this young boy is about to get shot by the military, the superheroes come to rescue him. It symbolizes two things: the dehumanization of even young children against the military, and the anti-symmetry between these two forces, where we have hyper-military units on one side, tanks and shit, and then people were fighting with literally whatever they can find, which mirrors Is Not Real and Palestine. Superman is not standing for the shit because he realizes it's unjust. This to me is bringing real superheroes back, because I can't tell you how many times I've imagined if I had superpowers, I'd exactly intervene on these kind of events. movie kind of wavers on its anti-Israel stance is it tries to act like these are two separate nations, and it ignores the fact that the land that Bravia in this case exists under is stolen land, and this is a colonial project.
Okay.
Wow.
So all of that is in there. And there are some real hardcore Zios that are having panic attacks, actually are talking about this. Here's one of them, just so you can see how affected they are by this film. And it's pretty interesting. So this is from Betar Worldwide. I am a man boiling with rage. Yesterday, I went with my son to watch the new Superman movie, Superman, the ultimate superhero, a character created by two Jewish immigrants, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, in the 30s. The character is supposed to represent hope, justice, and light. The actor playing Superman, Jewish. The studios owned by Jews. I thought we weren't supposed to say that. Okay. Even the character of Superman himself, symbolically and historically, is considered to have Jewish roots. A refugee sent from crisis and war to save a better world, created to empower the Jews who returned from the Holocaust. And what did the pathetic progressives in Hollywood do? They trampled all over this. Instead of presenting a character who defends the weak and fights for justice, they turned it into a disgusting political caricature where Israel, under a different name, is portrayed as a fascist state, a warmonger, and a close ally of the U.S., which supplies advanced weaponry to fight poor and miserable farmers, the good Palestinians, with pitchforks and stones. And Superman, he comes to save them from bloodthirsty Israel. This is literally a film of incitement against us. I sat there next to my son watching how the film had one purpose: to brainwash the world. They took the ultimate childhood hero who was supposed to represent absolute good and turned him into a one-sided, distorted, superficial propaganda tool. They ruined my childhood. They ruined the experience for me, but not only me, they ruined it for the next generation. And this is the best part, because my son, with his innocent eyes, asks me, Dad, why did is Superman against Israel? Isn't he Jewish? Oh, I bet he did. Well, Caitlin Johnstone sets this dude right. If it had a different name, then how did you know the warmonger's fascist state attacking impoverished civilians was supposed to be Israel? Was it because of all the warmongering and fascism and attacking civilians? Good job, Caitlin. Good job. Yeah, a father and son sitting there, both triggered by images of warmongering and attacking of innocent civilians, and they both thought to themselves, "This looks like a commentary on Israel." Dad, why is Superman attacking the warmongering Israel state? Because that's apparently what happened when the son looked at the dad. He felt that his land of Israel was being attacked by Superman because of the warmongering. Yeah. There you go.
Script supervising by Max Blumenthal and Onion Parampel to sneak that on in there. That's kind of crazy. That's great. That's awesome, man. I'm gonna go see that movie. I haven't been in a movie theater in a long time, but now that happened, I gotta go see that, because there are so many cryptic things and messages and program they put in movies, right? I mean, I'll never forgive Sylvester Stallone for making me root for the Mujahideen in Rambo 3. You know, they've been doing that. They've been demonizing the Russians in all the movies. It's always the Russians, the bad Russians. Even Rocky 4, fighting against the steroided Russians. So I'm going to go see that movie. I'm going to jump off a little bit, and I'll jump back on, Matt. That was a great analysis. I'm going to go see that movie.
There's a game for you on your way out. This is, so what does the S stand for, right? We always want to know what the S stands for. On my planet, it means Free Palestine.
Awesome.
Love it.
Gail Godot?
No, that's the best part. There's no more Gal Gadot. There's no more of that. Zack Snyder's done. So this is all fresh. This is all new. We don't have no Wonder Woman showing up. If he does get a Wonder Woman in the universe, it's obviously going to be somebody different. So we're done with that. It's awesome. This is the Lois Lane character. She's great, by the way. Thanks, Craig.
You got it, buddy.
Okay, cool. See you in a little bit. There it is. That's what the S should stand for. And I'll end this segment, guys, with my own personal assessment of this film, because like I said earlier, I am a Superman fan from the beginning, from childhood. And I always looked at that debate between who's the better character, Superman or Batman. And I always just instinctually went towards Superman because of that ability to inspire hope, but not just hope, but how we can better ourselves by taking on characteristics of somebody who had the responsibility of a Superman. What would Superman do? And that's why the embodiment. I'll say nothing will ever challenge the Christopher Reeve version of this film, but this one comes close in its own way, and I'll get to that in a second. But really, this has been the problem with every attempt at recreating that, whether it's Brandon Roth, and not his fault, but this horrible take from Bryan Singer, who did it in 2006, who had no idea what the film even was that he was making. Was it a sequel? Was it a reboot? Had no idea. And it's just kind of a joke to recycle lines from decades before and pretend the characters are saying them for the first time, or tongue in cheek, overdoing the John Williams soundtrack. This one had a little John Williams in it, but it was well used, not overdone. There was even a little hint of Zimmer from the Man of Steel. So I thought that part was amazing. I did have a few critiques of the film. I'll get to those in a second. But overall, I will tell you guys, this film, you have to see it just because it's important. It is politically important. And I know they say you go to the films, you go to the movies to escape politics, but sometimes you can't help but notice that a character like Superman, what if he were to exist in this world, not the world that Christopher Reeve played in 1978, this world now, where it is not the American way, where an alien from another planet would not take on the American flag. They would work on behest of humanity, which is what the movie's about and what Superman's always been about. Zack Snyder got it wrong with Henry Cavill. Again, another actor meant well, but it's not his fault. But the script didn't allow for Superman's moral compass to come into play. The moral compass of Superman is he knows what's right, he knows what's wrong. And in this movie by James Gunn, he challenges that by saying it's not necessarily given to you by your lineage. It's not necessarily given to you by your parents and your bloodline, which is also interesting. We've never heard that take on Superman before. Where do you get your moral compass from? Does it come from within? Does it come from life experiences? Does it come from particular moments that inspire and influence you and they stick with you? Where does that come from? Does it come from religion? Does it come from being part of a tribe? Are you not able to have a moral compass unless you're part of a tribe? So those people that need to ask, this is a great question of philosophy, and we need to discuss it. But for me personally, it was never about lineage for me. As you guys know, I got a fake Jewish name. My mom just made it up, me and my brother. So I resonate with this character being challenged about his lineage. Does lineage equal who you are? Or can you find who you are based on the environment that you find yourself in and what you make of it? Well, this Superman certainly has the moral compass. The Henry Cavill from 2013 does not. He does things that Wolverine and Batman would do. And if I want to see things that Wolverine and Batman would do, like kick somebody's ass and passive aggressively destroy their truck to teach them a lesson, which he does in Man of Steel 2013, goes outside and does a passive aggressive, I'm going to destroy this guy's truck to show him. That's not how Superman behaves. This Superman behaves with a moral compass. However, he's a little immature. That's not a critique for me. That's just a different version where you have to learn to be a man. And that becomes then an interesting story to tell, where the critique we've heard, where Batman's more interesting because he has something to learn and his darkness to work out and he has to figure some shit out. Well, Superman in this version actually does have something to learn. He has to learn how to be mature. And that's also, I think, an interesting part of this. Again, not on the level of the Christopher Reeve, Richard Donner, but I'm going to tell you, giving Superman something to work for, which is not finding his moral compass. He's got that. He's learning how to behave in a world that's taken over by AI and social media and propaganda that can work against him instantaneously with just a smear piece that appears on all of the social media outlets and news outlets, and it can ruin you in a second. And so he has to deal with that and learn how to deal with that as he's getting his ass kicked. And I guess the only critique I have of this film, really, some of the editing's a little off. Some of the action sequences are a little too much of Superman getting his ass kicked. That they could have done a little less of. But overall, it's worth seeing. And to look at the people angry about the film, that's where the real giveaway is. The right wing that thinks, oh, they're trying to make Trump look bad. Lex Luthor. No, Lex Luthor's not Trump. Do you know who Lex Luthor is in this film? He's more like, I was thinking of Palantir, of Alex Karp. That's who I'm thinking. This is not an FU to Trump. This is certainly not a woke film. I can assure you it's not a woke film. And that's that. You guys should go see it for yourself, to judge for yourself. But we wanted to give you guys a piece of that, and also to let you know that the Israel thing, if the question is asked, how did they get it past the censors? Because that's an interesting question. How the hell, if this movie is a critique on Israel and the U.S. Complicity in funding a genocide and world domination and all this stuff that would make Superman question these things and say, why should I be for that? That doesn't seem right. If this is something that is in fact a critique on Israel, you would ask, well, how the hell did James Gunn get this by the censors? That's really the question. And my only guess to that would be that because Israel's not mentioned, because Palestine's never mentioned, and because DC Comics already has these worlds set up, there's nothing suspicious about using, and I just want to be clear, the country Boravia, which is their thing, it's supposed to be Israel. Boravia was created way back in 1939 in Superman #2. That is where that comes from. So there's a reference point. So I think that may be why the censors didn't catch it. And I also think there might have been enough Jewish people working on this movie that knew that maybe this was a good thing to be part of, that there needed to be something about humanity. And the question should have been asked, well, why are we making this film? You always have to ask yourself, why are you making this film? Bryan Singer never asked that question. That's why his movie is awful. Zack Snyder answered that question, but it was the wrong answer. It was because he wanted to make him like Batman. That's the wrong answer. I think the question was asked by James Gunn, why are we making this movie? And I believe that has been answered. And he figured out a way to make it a commentary about today. So I would say my final assessment is this. Definitely an A- film. Superman 1978, Richard Donner, that's the Superman we want to exist in a world that we want to be. James Gunn's Superman is a Superman that would exist in a world that is. And that's this week in Hollywood.